для нас. Отец должен Сталин!
Ива Сталин! И внутрь Сталин! Сталин! Мира и счастья всем!
Propaganda, a tool to promote or disseminate a particular idea to the benefit of the propagandist, and not necessarily the target audience. Propaganda has been used since the dawn of humanity by many famous civilizations, including the Greeks, the Persians, and the Romans. The Romans, in particular, utilized propaganda extensively. For example, Julius Caesar had his face, adventures, and victories depicted on coins, allowing Romans back home to witness his supposed grand triumphs over the barbarians.
Whoa!
This made him popular in Rome, although some of the victories he depicted never actually happened. This tactic of misinformation would further be used extensively by the Soviets and the Nazis in the 1930s. In this video, I will talk about 3 different types of propaganda. 3 types of propaganda according to the book Propaganda and Persuasion by Garth S. Jowett and Victoria O'Donnell. White propaganda. White propaganda is considered the most innocent type of propaganda. It originates from a source that is correctly identified, and the information in the message tends to be accurate. Although the content is reasonably truthful, it is presented in a way designed to convince the audience that the sender is the good guy, with the best ideas and political ideology.
Meet Joe, the king of the workers of the world.
Hi, folks.
Joe's the king because he can buy more with his wages than any other worker on the globe. Just because Joe's an American doesn't mean...
Yeah? Well, being an American is the best thing in the... Oh!
So, if you're no Superman, it must be the American way of doing things that makes you the luckiest guy in the world.
White propaganda aims to build credibility with the audience, as this credibility may be useful at some point in the future. National celebrations, with their overt patriotism and regional pride, are often classified as white propaganda. International sports competitions also provide fertile ground for white propaganda, particularly from journalists. For instance, during the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing, China, over 200 nations participated. However, American television networks primarily focused on biographical profiles of American athletes. This selective focus on domestic athletes to stir up patriotism is a clear example of white propaganda. Black propaganda involves concealing the true source of information or attributing it to a false authority, spreading lies, fabrications, and deceptions. It is often referred to as the big lie, encompassing all forms of calculated deceit. Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Hitler's propaganda minister, famously claimed that outrageous charges are more likely to be believed than milder statements that merely distort the truth. One infamous example of black propaganda is the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Written in 1903 by Tsar Nicholas II's secret police, it portrayed Jews as malevolent schemers. The document, composed of 24 fabricated chapters, claimed to be the minutes of a secret Jewish council plotting world domination. Initially serialized in a Russian newspaper, the protocols were publicly released in 1905 as part of a propaganda campaign to incite widespread anti-Semitism in Russia. During the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, the protocols were used to justify mass violence against Jews. Even after being exposed as a forgery in 1921, they continued to circulate, promoted by conspiracy theorists and anti-Semitic movements. Adolf Hitler referenced the protocols in Mein Kampf, and they became deeply embedded in Nazi propaganda, fueling the Nazi Party's ideological framework and justifying their atrocities. The success or failure of black propaganda depends on the receiver's willingness to accept the credibility of the source and the content of the message. Care has to be taken to place the sources and message within a social, cultural, and political framework of the target audience. If the sender misunderstands the audience and therefore designs a message that does not fit, black propaganda may appear suspicious and tends to fail. Gray propaganda occupies the middle ground between white and black propaganda. Unlike white propaganda, which comes from an openly identified source, and black propaganda, which disguises or falsifies its origin, gray propaganda is deliberately ambiguous about its source. It aims to influence opinions or behaviors by blending truth, partial truth, and misinformation. The true source is not revealed or is obscured, making it difficult to verify the intentions or credibility behind the message, and it contains a mix of accurate information, half-truths, and falsehoods, creating plausible narratives that are harder to dismiss outright. In today's digital landscape, gray propaganda often appears as online misinformation or manipulated content spread by bots or fake accounts. These messages might claim to be from activists, concerned citizens, or independent journalists, but their true origin may be linked to political campaigns or foreign governments. Gray propaganda's success lies in its ambiguity. By mixing truth with deception and concealing its origins, it becomes difficult for audiences to dismiss or refute the message outright. The subtlety of its approach allows it to quietly shape perceptions, attitudes, or actions without drawing direct scrutiny to the propagandist. Gray propaganda highlights the complexities of modern influence tactics, operating in a space where truth and falsehood blur to serve strategic objectives. Recognizing it requires critical thinking and a careful examination of sources and intentions.